yeah, it's a bit of a weird weekend. We've got Easter weekend coming, and it's just doesn't really feel like it's going to be a long weekend as such, because every day just sort of feels the same. But enough of that negativity. Why are we here? We're here because we want to keep on giving you guys some ideas, some inspiration, some tips, some techniques to basically help us all be a bit more successful, because right now, let's not kid ourselves, sales has got a bit tougher. So what have we got on the agenda today? Well, you may remember a couple of weeks ago, we broke down some real elevator pitches from you guys, people who've been coming to the webinars. And last week, we actually asked anybody who volunteers who wanted to put their name forward. Thankfully, we had a few people record their pitches, and we're gonna try and get through as many of those as we can. So really, the idea here is we're gonna listen to how we are positioning ourselves with our prospects, and then we're going to give you guys a bit of feedback and hopefully just really making sure that we're doing as good a job as possible when we're actually speaking with prospective buyers. Objection of the week, with a bit of a treat involved if we've got time this week.
We don't know what this is either.
Yeah, we don't know.
Have got time because Rich has kept his cards.
I've definitely bigged it up too much this week.
No pressure.
The big chunk, we're going to talk about voicemails. We've seen lots of people ask about voicemails in the chat. What do we do with voicemails? Should we leave them? Shouldn't we? And we're going to talk about that. And then we're also going to be talking about changing our message and what we should be thinking about due to the current situation, and how we can all adapt our messaging and what our buyers are looking for more now in the current world situation. So anyway, let's get to it with elevator pitch breakdown. And we're going to start. And what we want to do here is we want to make sure that it's less of us doing the talking today in this part of the webinar, and more about you guys. Hopefully, you've been listening to some of the thoughts and techniques and feedback we've been going through. So we want to hear how you guys are actually perceiving these pitches that we're playing on the webinar. And so as we play these, we would like you to kind of give your thoughts in the chat area about the things that you think the guys are doing really well, things that could be improved, and then we'll give our thoughts. So my headset so you can hear the speakers. So what we've got, first of all, is Harry Hinders. Harry, if you are on the webinar, put in the chat and say hello right now. This is the awkward bit where Harry isn't in the webinar.
But Lewis Terry's in the house, so we've got one at least.
I'm still going to play Harry's pitch anyway that he sent in. Lewis Terry is in the house. Lewis, we've got yours coming up, as you can see in my tabs. Anyway, either Harry is not here or he is and he's very shy. But let's go into Harry. So Harry is from a company called Sales Screen. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to play Harry's... Bob Hollow is in the house as well. Bob, you might be up soon too. But anyway, Harry, Sales Screen. We're going to play Harry's pitch. Remember that the objective here was you're speaking with a brand new prospect. This is a cold conversation. How do you position yourself and your company? And this is what Harry would say in that situation.
I speak with sales managers every day, and often they tell me they want to be able to provide one-to-one feedback to their team, come up with strategies to motivate everyone to create that fun sales floor environment. Is that something that resonates with you? Would you be interested in learning about a system which can help you do all this so you can connect, recognize, and engage your whole team, but also save yourself time in the process?
Awesome. So as I said, want you guys to put in your thoughts on what you've just Harry from Sales Screen say. So put your comments in the chat right now. What did Harry do well? Importantly, let's lead with what he did well, and what could we do to improve it?
I think, as Matt said as well, let's be generous.
Yeah, people have put themselves forward.
Yeah, they've a lot to do it. So
yeah, if they didn't put themselves forward, we wouldn't be doing this. So yeah, fair play to them all.
So here. Harry's leading with the problems, which is a common theme. Yeah, he has to relate to the issue.
And anyone else as well that's listening to this, if you want to put yourself forward, there's hundreds of people on this webinar. You can promote your business to these hundreds of people by taking part. If anyone wants to take part in this, put yes in the comments now with a link to your LinkedIn profile, and we'll arrange that.
Got any good strong question after the problems? Cool. He has to close question too early, which could shut the conversation down. That's an interesting one. He has to close question too early, which is the kind of like the yes, no. It's interesting. Is that a bad thing or is it a good thing?
Right. Okay. Nice. Thank you for sending some of that feedback in. So, Mark, what do you think there about Harry's pitch?
Yeah, I thought this was okay. So I thought the way he opened it up was, trying to sound relevant, saying that he speaks to people like you quite regularly. The thing that I really picked up on, though, was I felt his two initial questions were easy yeses. Like, I think playing it back, it was a little bit choppy for me. I don't know if anyone else found it a little bit choppy, but what I heard from it was two questions that were just going to, even if he said yes, I don't see how that would have helped him. They were just, I think, easy questions. The first one I picked up was like, does that sound of interest to you? But I mean, it was one-to-one feedbacks, making the sales floor fun, something like that. The sound did break up for me, but yeah, that was my initial thoughts. I don't know if anyone else picked up on that.
Stu?
Yeah, I think, to be fair to Harry, I think he did try to lead with the problems. But I don't know if they were compelling enough problems. In my opinion, it didn't really speak of something that a sales manager would be losing sleep over. It was a little bit woolly, in my opinion. I think it needs to be more concise and more snappy, but well done for leading with that and then doing that. The second thing, if I can give I know he's not here, but if I can share a bit of feedback, he then went into pitch mode a little bit. Once he got the customer to accept that was a problem, he then went into pitch mode, how we have built a system that helps do this. Rather than really just closing the opportunity down there, saying, fantastic, I'm glad I called. This is exactly the challenge we solve. Would you be open to a conversation so I can share how we do it? He kind of slipped into pitch mode there and started talking about himself and the product. So I think good job trying to lead with the problems. Maybe if you can make them a bit more compelling, and then, like I say, close down the opportunity after if somebody does agree, rather than going into pitch mode.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of that. I think on the compelling piece for Harry, he said, I speak with sales managers and they're looking for ways to create more fun and a bit more of a buzz in the room, which is great. But what is the problem with not having that buzz in the room? That's the key thing. The problem with not having that buzz is not a sales team that aren't motivated, and sales teams that aren't motivated probably aren't performing. So that's the ultimate problem that he's solving. That's the compelling thing that the sales manager wants to hear, not to create a fun, buzzy environment. It's to solve the problem that is lack of motivation, which is the thing that his product actually solves.
Do you ever get frustrated that the sales floor is a little bit flat, and the team are not motivated and driven like they should, like you think they should be?
Yeah, exactly.
I think he's got more right than he has wrong, though. I think just a few little tweaks. I think this will fly.
Agreed.
Right, going to move on to Lewis Terry. So this one, Lewis went to the effort of dressing up in some sort of chicken outfit.
Lewis is in the house. What are you thinking, mate?
No, that's not what you were going to say, Mark. Come on, you've got with it.
I was going to say, what the cluck. Yeah, Lewis, what's going on, pal? This is a bit weird, this.
Right, okay, so we're going to listen to Lewis. Lewis is from EXP Recruitment. So check them out. This is Lewis's response. Again, pop your thoughts in the chat channel.
Because right now, all SDR teams should be asking themselves, are we adapting to prospecting in an epidemic? Have we found the right messaging? Have we adapted our coaching and training programs to home working? Is pipeline a concern? If the answer is no to any of these, then why the hell not? 83% of the SDR teams missed quota in 2019. Now, a lot of these will be a result of poor onboarding and incorrect targets. Now, EXP coach a network of SDRs and managers through individual, team, and industry-wide challenges. We run training with analysis, inspection, and real-time feedback on the calls that you and your reps are having. So your lower, middle, and top performing reps can replace challenges with successful conversations. Let's start with talking me through the structure of the team.
Okay, Lewis, well done, mate. That was excellent. But then we'll now let's move on. Right, so what we've seen from the comments in the chat from your pitch is we've got unique. I'm assuming that's relating to the outfit. A lot of information without stopping. No questions. Is that a bad thing? Bit long. How long should it be? Audio quality, bit long. Too much info. No pauses or questions. Okay, so let's chuck it out to Mark. You want to put your hand up? What are your thoughts on? First of all, what did Lewis do really well on that pitch?
So I think what Lewis done really well is he did speak about problems, concerns, stuff. I think it was thought-provoking. Again, I think there's more right here than there is wrong. I think it's just a few tweaks. And to go through those tweaks, I think I counted it led with 4 problems. I think 4's far too many. I think 2 should be your maximum. So just focus on what the biggest problems are. I'm not a massive fan in the initial pitch of like stats like 83% misquota, because it just, anyone can make up a stat. I've got no doubt he's read that somewhere and that's genuine from where he's read that source, but I'm not a massive fan of that. And then I just felt like the pitch probably wasn't needed. I think that's where you could have paused, you could have asked if that resonated, you could have dug into them more. But as I say, more right than wrong. I think just too much front loaded and too much back loaded, too many problems, too much of a pitch. Yeah, I mean, I think the problems that he talked about at the start were like really, as you say, thought-provoking. I think anybody with especially in the current situation with an SDR team who are remote, who, you know, there's tough challenges, these are specific things that managers of those teams, leaders, will be thinking about. So that were really compelling. And I was kind of thinking that this sounds really interesting. And I think, as you say, just a little bit too long, just needed that pause. I think when we try and solve loads and loads of problems, even if we do solve loads and loads of problems, it's like a bit like when you think of orange squash, diluted orange.
If you on your prospect, Rich, it's throwing all problems and hoping something resonates. Where if you're pitching to somebody who you should know their 1 or 2 top challenges, or certainly have a really good guess, rather than throwing loads at them. I think any more than 2, like you say, it starts to get diluted. But I think Lewis has definitely done more right than wrong. One thing I would add as well, nothing much more to add than what you guys have covered, but try and use more emotive language as well. When you speak to the prospect, like how sales leaders you speak with are really struggling and they find it difficult, and really, you know, emphasize those words and get them across and get people bought into that. And that really helps a lot. We've worked a lot on using that emotive language in our pitch, and people pick up on that, and it gets them, you know, to think about themselves and gets them on board a lot better when you use that kind of language. Yeah. I think he's definitely done a lot more right than wrong. Well, listen, look, he's taken part. He's not chickened out. So you just read that from the comments, haven't you? Where's that in the comments? Someone had that.
That's quite a few.
Mark, yeah. At least he was picking Mark Turner, so you plagiarised Mark.
Oh, it's Mark Turner in the house. We're chatting next week.
We're going to stop winging this, and we're going to move on. Right.
Who are we serving up?
I'm just keeping abreast of the time schedule that we're on. You know what I mean?
That's enough.
Right, okay, come on, we're getting to a flap.
Right. Okay. Right. Bob Apollo. Bob is from a company called Inflection Point. Hello, Bob. Say hello to the audience. Bob is a sales consultant, and his company's called Inflection Point, and we're going to play Bob's elevator pitch for everybody. So here it goes.
We work with CEOs and sales leaders in tech companies. They typically come to us because they've become frustrated with their sales team's ability to deliver the consistent revenue growth that their investors expect of them. We help them apply some simple disciplines that dramatically improve sales effectiveness. So if you don't mind me asking, on a scale of 1 to 10, how close is your current sales team to achieving their full potential?
Right, okay. So,
boom.
Pop in your chat. Great finish, very clear, great vocalization. This is solid. Mic drop from Charlie Whittaker. There you are, Bob. Love it. I like that. Good question at the end. Nice last question. Powerful. That was smooth. Drop the mic. Nice and precise. Anything bad about Bob's pitch? Is it just
Can people elaborate on why they think it was so good? Give us some reasons, like what you really enjoyed about it.
Yeah.
What were the things that you picked out that made it really good? Because I definitely agree, but it'd be great to get some specifics.
Sounds like he knows what he's talking about. Pacing. Okay. Very clear and understandable for all audiences. That's really interesting. Simplifying the pitch. He makes you want to listen more. He pointed to frustration. Okay, right. So some good stuff. Okay, Stu, do you want to start there? What did, for you, one thing Bob did really well, one thing that could maybe be improved?
The one thing that I picked on that Bob did really well is he knows his audience. So he mentioned CEOs, and I speak with CEOs, and I know our CEO, and what they're always trying to do is deliver what their investors expect of them. You know, if you've got a company that has investors, they'll have expectations and want you to hit those lofty expectations, and it's always a stress trying to get to those. And he mentioned how CEOs get frustrated that they're struggling to hit those. That's a massive problem for CEOs, because they might be looking to unlock their next funding round. They might be looking to, grow the team or whatever. So they've got to unlock that first. So I think the problem that Bob mentioned is really, really relevant. And I thought you'd done a great job. Question was good at the end as well. Who's going to say they're 100% happy? It's quite a leading question, but a good one.
Yeah. Mark, anything to add to that?
I love this. I think there's only one thing I'd just maybe question. Doesn't mean I'd be right or wrong, but I think, look, let's talk about the opening here. It was relevant and he used emotive language. But more importantly, as we've said, he knows his audience. What I loved here is Bob knows what CEOs care about. Spoke about investors, spoke about revenue growth. That's what a CEO gives a shit about. That is the bottom line. And Bob has told them that he speaks to those people. They come to him for these problems. He's literally, those are the 2 pain points. If we think back to like Lewis's, who had like 4, I think that's the power of having 2, like where you're just really relevant. The only thing I'm just wondering is, I think that last question was great. I really liked it. I just wonder if it needs the 1 to 10. Maybe it works, but I'm just wondering if someone says like an 8 or a 9, does that give you much to go with? Or I don't know. Yeah. I'm sort of just a little bit torn on the 1 to 10. It's a good question.
It's an interesting one. I think my perspective, I echo all the comments about Bob knowing his audience. Bob hasn't pitched about how he specifically properly helps with those problems. He's just got the CEOs leaning in. The 1 to 10 for me, again, I'm kind of on the fence. It feels a little bit like I'm being led down a garden path versus being a less committal response. But I do think this was an excellent pitch.
I think like some of the comments are sort of what's making me a little bit on the fence. So like Tim Johnson, big shout out to Tim, big friend of Refract, is that I think that it leads to a great follow-up question. And I think Bob's commented that as well. I think if someone says a 7 or 8, you could ask, why didn't you say lower? Or what do they need to do to achieve a 10? I do get that. I just wonder if he would have more success. And Bob's probably tried this. He's clearly a pro without the 1 to 10.
We're going to move this on. For those of you who like this type of thing in the webinars around elevator pitch breakdown, put the word yes, and we'll keep on doing these. But in order to keep on doing them, we need more volunteers to do them. So pop in yes if you are enjoying this part.
But more importantly, we need volunteers. Don't just all put in yes and not put yourself forward. There's close to 200 people in this webinar, and only one person so far has put themselves forward.
Yeah. And
do we want to take a guest, guys, or are we going to move on?
We're going to... Well,
it's 20 past, I reckon.
We'll move on. We've got time for guests. We'll bring them in at the end. Yeah.
But put your LinkedIn in the comments if you want to submit your pitch.
Right. I am going to do. We are okay for time. We're going to move. We're going to come on to voicemails after this section. We're going to do a big piece on voicemails. But before we do that, we have got everybody's favorite part of the week, which. I have kind of jazzed up a bit today, so probably won't work now.
This is the big surprise that he's not told us about. So everyone, we're just as in the dark as you. This is all on Rich.
Right. So it's time for that.
Here we go.
It's just not going to work, is it?
We don't know, Rich. We don't know what it is, mate.
Right. I might come back to that. Anyway.
Objection of the week.
Right, okay. It didn't work, but, that's what lack of preparation does for you. Right, objection of the week this week is classic one where have you ever rang up a prospect and you kind of tell them what you do and they say, oh, we've actually got that covered. If you hear that objection a lot, we have actually got something in place for that. Type in objection into the chat so we can get out a feeling as to how often people hear this. Call someone, prospect someone, we send an email, we get a response that says, oh, we've got that covered. Lots of people with the word objection. Okay, Stu, why do we get this objection?
I'm probably going to sound like a broken record from everybody who's been here for the weeks before, but I often think it's because a prospect's confused, doesn't know particularly what we do, and thinks they have it covered. It might be that they genuinely think they have something in place, and often it mightn't necessarily be correct that they have that product in place. So I think, often not leading with problems is one of the reasons this comes up. But I really like this objection because if somebody gives me this objection, I find it really easy to get over it and just say, awesome, tell me a bit more about how you do that, and get them talking. And then you can find out if they do have it covered. Some of our best prospects, when we call them, do have sales coaching covered already. What we do is make it better. So the fact that they've got it covered doesn't mean you can't still make it better with whatever your solution is. So for me, it's a really good objection, if you can get such a thing.
So Mark, Stu touched upon that, of like, a lot of time we get that objection, they say we've got it covered, but actually the thing that they have probably isn't the thing that you sell. So how do you, like, what's your experience of when you've heard that, and how do you really deal with that situation?
Yeah, so I'll sound like a bit of a broken record as well. But what Stu said, there was one part of that in particular that was gold, and let's just dig into that. What Stu does is he says that's great, he embraces it. The number one mistake you can make as a sales rep when someone says we've got this covered is to get defensive and to assume that they have. Most times reps will get defensive, they'll start challenging it, they'll start suggesting their product's better. That's just the wrong move. Bear in mind this is a cold call. Bear in mind you're an interruption. You need to be seen as someone that's there to help, not challenge. I've said this every webinar. Most people will be just fine if they never buy from you. And they probably have got something in place that they feel within that first 15 seconds is covering this. You need to embrace it, as Stu said, and just ask a question. Take a step back, say, that's brilliant. I'm really pleased to hear you doing that. And ask them how they're doing that. Ask them how they're getting those results. And the reality is, I'm yet to think of an example where it's ideal to be selling to someone that's not doing this. I think the best customers, surely, and anyone challenge me if you think I'm wrong, the best customers are people that you're going to help do what they're doing better. I think when you've got to change someone who's not currently doing this or hasn't got something in place, you've got to sell it twice. You've got to sell the idea, the concept, then you've got to sell your product. And it's just an absolute ball ache. You want people that you're going to help do what they're currently doing better. So hearing that, I think, is a great thing.
Yeah, I totally agree. As Stu said, I actually love it when I hear this, because a lot of the time it indicates that they're actually doing something which makes them a better fit prospect for me than if they weren't. So in our situation, if we call someone and they say, "Oh, we've got this covered," and their idea of having this covered is that they record calls. We know as a business that we have something like an 80% better chance of converting a customer to a company that's already recording calls. But they have a problem because of that. And so that for me it's a really nice qualification piece. So actually, I think people should see that we've got this covered is actually quite a nice objection to get, because it typically indicates that they're already doing something in their mind that is helping them tackle the issue that they've got now, but perhaps you can help them do it better. And so I really like getting that objection. We've got a big piece on voicemails, so we're gonna move on. So thanks for listening to.
People are logging off here.
We've lost our audience.
I know you all love it. Right.
Moving on for the half of you that are still with us.
We just lost 20% of participants. Right. Okay. Okay. So we're going to move on to voicemails. Had loads of people talk. Right. Voicemails. We want to cover voicemails. So we said, let's give the people what the people want. And we're going to our voicemails. So on that basis, the big question that we're all asking is, should you leave one or shouldn't you leave one when you're prospecting? Before we actually answer that, I want to hear from the audience. When you're prospecting on the phone, do you or don't you leave voicemails? I want you all just to put in the chat when you do it, why you do it, if you do it. Always, never. No. 100% yes, always. When I'm desperate.
I'm desperate.
No, they will never return the call.
Well, we're going to fix that.
Just leave one, saying you'll call again. Not on the first call. I don't leave voicemails. It means I don't have a reason to call back. Always, I need to leave the name and number twice. Interesting one. Usually not. Someone called me back from a voicemail today. Boom. Right, okay. Who leaves voicemails these days? I mean, I've got 7 on my phone right now, Jack, that I haven't listened to. But they're all from delivery drivers. Right. Stuart.
Yes, Richard.
Should we leave a voicemail or shouldn't we?
Yes, is the short answer. I think we should. Not always, not 100%, not 100% of the time. It can become a little bit repetitive, I think, if we're leaving very similar voicemails. But on the whole, yes, I think we should. As long as they are good voicemails. And I think as salespeople, we make a lot of mistakes in our voicemails. And I think if we get a decent voicemail together, then it can work very well. You know, we've got proven results where people do ring us back from voicemails from that point of view. So it works. But not just that, a voicemail works in unison with other approaches. So one of our top performing outreaches is a voicemail followed by an email. And we mightn't necessarily get a response to that that voicemail, but what we do get is a response to the email where people will actually reply, you know, listen to your voicemail and reply back to you via email. So the short answer is yes.
Interesting. So, Mark, maybe slight different twist, and what is the point of leaving the voicemail?
Yeah, I think the reality is that's where people go wrong. What is the point of a voicemail? Most salespeople don't leave voicemails. The ones that do leave crap voicemails. But lads, I mean, just between the three of us, how often as a percent do you reckon you hit a voicemail? It's got to be 40, 50% of the time, isn't it? You do hit voicemails. Yeah. What staggers me is people seem to just leave voicemails on the fly. Like they don't actually prepare and think about the voicemail they're going to leave. I think you always leave a voicemail on your first call, but it's what's the purpose of that voicemail? This for me is just a free shot, a promotion to not necessarily for about me and my brand and company, but it's just making them aware, building some intrigue, and just basically getting on their radar. People's voicemails, when they do leave them, are really poor because, well, there's loads of pitfalls that we're going to get into. But the purpose of a voicemail for me is to get on someone's radar. That's the short answer.
You become familiar, don't you? It's another touch point. You know, they're aware of you.
There's been a few people that have said, what's the point? Like, well, let me ask you this. Whenever you get a voicemail on your phone, do you ever not listen to that voicemail? Like, I'd say, interested to hear what the audience say, but I feel like more times than not, you get a voicemail, you listen to that voicemail. So that's probably what your prospects are doing.
Well, here's the key, right? I would challenge anyone here to tell me if I'm wrong, but I don't listen to voicemails that are left on my desk phone. I don't even know how to access them. And obviously I'm working remote now. I listen to every voicemail on my mobile, particularly when it's a mobile phone number. I just don't know who it is. I think if you're calling mobile to mobile and you hit a voicemail, I think most voicemails are listened to, but the reality is they probably stop listening after the first 5-6 seconds because people are making big mistakes.
So you mentioned mistakes there. Let's look at the common pitfalls of voicemails. Stu, you kind of hinted before the duration of voicemails. What do you want to tell us a bit more about that?
Yeah, 100%. Like most things, I'm a big fan of getting to the point and like cutting out all the bullshit from any type of message. Just get to the point. People are always short of time. They're running from here to there. You need to get to the point. Your voicemail needs to be concise. And really, like I say, compelling. You need some reason that's going to pique their interest in the voicemail, like your elevator pitch, like your emails. You know, there's a common theme here, and that's true of voicemails as well. The shorter, the better.
Mark, what about relevance when it comes to voicemails?
Voicemail is like that cold call. It's like the elevator pitch, but more so not in terms of pitching your services. It's about just telling them what's the purpose here. You know, I would say the shorter the better and really get to it. The voicemails that I'm not a fan of are the ones that start off with everyone's favourite topic, which is them. People saying it's Mark Akers calling from Refract, reading out their number twice, going into what their company does. Everyone's favourite topic is them, so talk about them. That's what you need to do when you have a voicemail. Talk about that person, tell them why you're interested in them, and try and give them like a compliment, which is like a little adrenaline shot. If you can find something they've written, something they've posted about, something they've spoken about, something of interest to them, you can actually mention that and start your voicemails with them, and then just build a little bit of intrigue, and that's all you need to do. It's just that initial approach to getting on their radar.
I think you're right, Mark. And I read this is a great book for anybody, and this isn't kind of shots fired at Jeb, but Jeb Blunt, Fanatical Prospecting. If anybody's not read it, it's a really great book. But Jeb's approach is who you are, what your purpose is, and then leave your phone number twice. So it's Stuart from Refract wanted to speak to you regarding, X, Y, and Z problems. I'm on 077, blah, blah, blah. I'm repeating your number twice. And that's the first step of the voicemail that he recommends. And I tried it for ages, and we just got no responses with voicemails. And this was probably 2 or 3 years ago. And we've since changed to the approach that Mark's, talking about. And we've got far better results with it.
Yeah.
I don't know, Tim, it was probably 2 years ago or so. Maybe it's a little bit longer than that. It's not a really old book. There's a lot of good takeaways from it.
Yeah, is this Objections by Jeb Blount?
No, it's Fanatical Prospecting.
So I reckon that's at least 3.5 years old, and he would have written it probably 4.5, 5 years ago. I don't want to call Jeb out as such. Obviously he's a phenomenal sales expert, but I just don't agree with that. I honestly think, first of all, let's go back to the point here. Mobile to mobile voicemails. Do you need to read your number out twice? Like, your number's there. Like, it literally has the number and the option to call back. What a waste of time. And it's really irritating listening to someone's number. So that for me is not of interest. Get straight into talking about them, build a little bit of intrigue. But then I think that call to action as well. Like, no one's going to call you back. You've got to tell them what's going to happen. And again, these are all the pitfalls of voicemails.
Also, as you were talking there, I was just thinking back to Bob Apollo's elevator pitch. One of the things that people said was intrigue. You wanted to keep on listening. So why aren't we doing that more on voicemails? Why aren't we basically building that intrigue and not giving everything away and not talking about us, but just getting the prospects to keep on listening? It's like a page turner, a voicemail. Like, yeah, I want to listen more. And then, as you say at the end, tell them what's going to happen next. It's not just about a callback, because they're not going to call you back. It's about this is the next time I'm going to get in touch with you. On that point, Mark, I know that you want to share in your little bit, as you call it, how we as a company practiced some voicemails and ultimately refined our approach, and something that everybody on this call could be doing.
Yeah, so again, Mark's bit of the week. Not got a theme tune, but I'll get one. So yeah, guys, I've got a bit of a blast from the past here. I actually went back into the archives of Refract about 2 years ago. I'm sure you remember. We all set each other a video challenge to record a voicemail. And the reason we were doing that, Matt, you'll remember, we were spending a lot on marketing leads. We were calling those marketing leads up. We were hitting voicemails. And we just noticed that we were leaving poor voicemails, we were leaving inconsistent voicemails, and we weren't getting people return our calls. And then we're getting new marketing leads come in and just leaving them. So our CEO, Kevin, just set us all a video challenge. Record for me your best voicemail, and let's try and nail this down. Let me share my screen, and I'm actually going to play back what we were doing 2 years ago and how we've come along and figured this out since. Like, we don't come into these webinars just saying this is what works. We have worked and refined this. Let me share my screen. So desktop, brilliant. You should be able to see that there. Oh no, wait, I'm on the wrong slide. I'm on that LinkedIn post. How do I get off this? This is where what's going on here, Rich? Today I had the chance to get a coach on one of my role models and legendary sales god, Richard Smith. What's this, Rich? Yeah, my laptop's frozen. Can everyone see that? And just in the comments, can everyone see that Rich is a sales god?
I highlighted that text as well. That's unfortunate.
Yeah, no, it's so unfortunate. Anyway, oh no, look, it's come back.
I hate you so much.
So, as I say, this was a video challenge we set to the sales team. You can see it was 2 years ago. So we asked the sales team, imagine you get a marketing lead. You call them up. Their name's John. I think it was John. They work for a company called Heineken. Everyone's heard of them. What is your voicemail? This was what Stuart was saying 2 years ago. And I want everyone in the comments to just bear in mind it's 2 years old and we've refined it and we've practiced and perfected it. What does everyone think of this voicemail from 2 years ago?
I've got thick skin as well.
I'm calling because
Mark, get your headset out.
Oh, right. Okay. Sorry. Yeah.
You were too busy showing that Rich is a sales god, weren't you? And you forgot that.
Hi, John. Stuart here from Refract. I'm calling because you downloaded our sales coaching handbook recently, and I have a case study that I thought you might find valuable. Given that you coach your team of 20 inside sales reps at Heineken, I thought it would be relevant to share, as it's all about how an inside sales manager like you managed to increase the performance of the team by implementing an effective coaching strategy using a Refract. I'd love to have a chat when it's convenient, John. If you give me a call back, my number is 07711 404402. That's 07711 404402. I will drop you an email as well, John. All of my contact details will be on there, and if it's easy to reply, just drop me a line. Thanks, John. Speak soon.
Okay, so a couple of comments coming back here, but Rich, why don't we flip it so you coach Stu's and the other way around?
Yeah, sure. So, yeah, I think what I really liked about this was that it was Stu's how we kind of personalized it. So he was very specific about saying your 20 inside sales reps. He's actually done his research before he's called this guy to actually check something out about this prospect situation. So this just feels a very intentional voicemail that Stu's left versus just one that he's just randomly called up somebody. And he's also talked about sharing a case study. He's kind of, this is like, I'm going to give you something away before we talk next. I think one of the challenges with this voicemail is that it doesn't necessarily speak too much to a compelling problem that we help solve. And again, we've had to refine this. As you say, this was 2 years ago now. We've refined this to make those more compelling. But I think just ultimately was maybe a little bit on the long side, not necessarily the compelling reason as to how we help people like him, but also what I really liked was the personalization. It was very obvious that he'd actually gone out of his way to make this about the prospect, which was one of the things that you said, Mark, is make this about them and not about you and everything that you do as a company.
Okay, well that was Stuart's. Let's play Richard's. I always do that, on webinars. Call you both Richard and Stuart. I don't know why.
No, you do.
I know it's weird. Right. Anyway, well, I probably couldn't call you what I normally do. Right. This is Richard's. Sales goals.
John, hi. Richard Smith here from Refract. Giving you a call as I noted that you downloaded our sales coaching handbook there. I saw that you look after the inside sales team at Heineken. Was wondering whether you were looking at enhancing your coaching capabilities with your team. I've actually got a couple of ideas I'd like to share with you to see if we can help in that area. If you can give me a call back, my number is 07469 890 890. Failing that, I'll actually give you another try tomorrow at 9 a.m. Speak then.
So what did everyone think of that? While the comments are going to come in there, what did you think, Stu?
I thought it was decent. Like I say, we have changed a lot since. I think it's decent. There's definitely more positives than negatives from it, in my opinion. I think the strongest part of Richard's for me is the end, the close of the voicemail. There's a couple of things I really like what he's done, how he wants to share a couple of ideas. We talked about it a little bit earlier, building that intrigue. What those ideas are, curiosity. People get kind of anxious, well, not anxious, but they want to know what that's about and get an opinion of it. And also the fact that he says he's going to try them again. Like, from a prospect point of view, they're just thinking, oh, this guy, I'm probably going to have to reply to him. He's just going to keep pestering us, which is obviously, a way that the prospect's going to either ring you back or email you back and get back in touch. So from that point of view, I think that the end is definitely the strongest. Both voicemails, though, nobody's commented on it, is we both left our numbers.
Yeah. Pointless.
And we've discussed that, and we both did that 2 years ago. And I said it twice. I left my number twice just to make sure Rich left his number once, and that's something we don't do now, which obviously we can go on to and we're done with these.
Yeah. Just the point about saying I'm going to call them tomorrow at 9 a.m. Like, the reality is, prospects subconsciously might think, oh man, I don't want this guy to call me at 9 a.m. because I'm going to be busy. I'm going to be in the middle of something. They may be inclined to respond to me there and then, or maybe they may respond to an email follow-up that I send. It's just, I'm kind of saying, like, I am gonna come back to you. So if you don't respond the way that you would like to respond, your phone will be ringing again. And I think that can help with just getting prospects to take action quicker.
Great.
This comes back to my key point. Voicemails, like, we hit them all the time. As professionals, we need to practice. We need to make sure that when we hit a voicemail, we're prepared for it. And I think that's one of the biggest things that salespeople don't do. And they leave different voicemails all the time and really don't know what works and what doesn't. Doing this challenge across the sales team, Richard and Stuart's were voted as the best across the group. And what I did, so I was relatively new to Refract at the time, is I took what I liked in Stuart's and what I liked in Richard's. And I liked Stuart's opening. I liked Richard's close. I liked that he told them what's going to happen next. Rich, why don't you bring up the slide? Because, again, we are still talking about 2 years ago, and we perfected it since. But let's just show you the voicemail that I started to leave. So you can see it on the screen there. This was the 2018 perfect voicemail, so to speak, by combining the both. So I left the following sort of voicemail. Hi Dan, it's Mark calling from Refract. Calling off the back of you downloading the Sales Coaching Handbook. Did a little bit of research, noticed that you're the sales leader for Heineken, and I was wondering if you were looking at enhancing your coaching capabilities for your team. I've actually got a couple of ideas I'd like to share with you. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to send you an email right away. It's going to come from Refract.ai. Do look out for it. Let me know if this is something we can talk about. Thanks. So that's the voicemail I was leaving 2 years ago. That is, as I say, when we were trying to merge the very best of Richard and Stewart's. But since then, we've changed it even more, and we've tried to make it more relevant and really shorten it. Richards and Stewart's were both close to or over 40 seconds long, and we're trying to leave a 20-second voicemail. So the voicemail that we're now leaving sounds a little bit like this. In fact, what I'll do is I have written it below of how I would leave it for my ideal customer profile, which is someone that manages a team of reps that sell over the phone. So I would say, hi, Karen, just read your blog on sales kickoffs. The idea you had regarding role play, brilliant. Anyway, I've got a couple of new ideas that might not be on your radar. They're related to how tech can help you instantly improve the outcome of your team's sales conversations, specifically around improving upselling and cross-selling results. Karen, no need to call me back. Check your emails for the ideas. By the way, this is Mark. All the best. Now, lads, I feel like I know why this works, and I'm going to break it down. But before I do that, do you just want to spend a couple of minutes telling me what you think of the 2020 voicemail that we're currently leaving?
I love it. I love it. And this is the one we pretty much use now as a team, or certainly very, very similar for most of the prospects. And I love it for a number of different reasons. But again, it's all about the prospect. Firstly, what you're doing, as Mark mentioned earlier, is you're giving them then a little shot in the arm. We just read your blog or seen your tweet or whatever it is. It doesn't really matter what it is regarding roleplay. Brilliant. Who's not going to listen on from that point when Mark said, I've read your blog. It was brilliant. Everybody's going to be thinking, all right, really? I want to know what Mark's got to say now. Again, he's got a couple of ideas that might not be on our radar. So he's already planting that seed that she might not be aware of these ideas that he's got to share. And then they're related to how tech can help instantly improve outcomes of sales conversations. Like, what sales leader isn't wanting to improve the outcomes of their team's sales conversations? But what's even better for me is Mark's gone deeper. He knows that improving upselling and cross-selling is a big thing for customers like Karen, who we work with. That's one of the big things they're trying to improve and what we help them do. So he's mentioned that as well. So it's really specific, going into the problems that they have, helping the team upsell and cross-sell better. He's also, which is contentious and people might disagree, but he said, don't call me back. There's no need to call me back, Karen. Check your email and drop me a line. And is almost, if it's a bit of a passing comment, because he's the least important person in this. It's Mark, by the way.
Yeah. To break that down, that last bit there, just starting with that, one of the things that I try to avoid is giving prospects or even customers jobs, like asking them to do something, call me back. I think it's asking too much. But if we just break this down, so I tell you why this voicemail works. We start off with their favorite topic, them. We don't start off with me. We don't start off with Refract. That's not interesting to them in comparison to something about them, something they've done, something they've wrote. And that compliment, that it's brilliant. It's like a little mini adrenaline shot. It's like going to get them excited. And when you give people a genuine compliment, it does engage with their brain. It makes them feel good. It gets their attention. And then when we move on, that transition of, I've got a couple of ideas that might not be on your radar. Those ideas, we're teasing it. We're teasing what we want to talk about. A little bit like what happens at the end of your favorite Netflix TV show, or any TV show for that matter, where they say next week on, and then they just show you a little highlight of what's coming. So you're sat there thinking, stick the next one on, we'll stay up an extra hour, because you want to see what's going to happen.
What do you think Karen's going to do? If Karen gets that voicemail, what's she going to do? My guess is she's probably going to check her inbox.
Well, yeah. I agree. And the thing is, the ideas as well, lads, it's stuff Karen specifically cares about. But again, just a couple of things: upsell and cross-sell, and improving sales conversations. We're not listing loads of different things. And then that last bit, we don't give her a job. We don't say call us back, because they probably won't. We instead promote the next touch point. We promote the next episode, which is the email.
here's the key there, coming back to the point of the voicemail, is not to get a call back necessarily, but Mark, you are instantly more memorable for this prospect, that when you do try and call her, when you email her, you're the one that she's going to remember thinking, he's the guy that basically referred to my blog that made it about me. And if your prospects aren't writing blogs, find them on social media, find something about their company. Are they hiring? Have they bought a company recently? There's so much stuff we can find out just to make something relevant about a prospect. And there's yes, some stuff is easier to find than others, but there is plenty of stuff on there, if not at the individual level, but the company level, that can help you personalize these voicemails.
Here's a question for everybody in the audience, so to speak. But who actually wants a customer to call you back? And I'll tell you why I asked that, because when customers ring me or prospects ring me back, I flap. I don't really necessarily know who it is. I haven't got their profile in front of me. I don't know what their job title is. I take the call and I'm on the back foot.
Yeah.
Oh, shit, who was that? What did they want? If I'm making 50 calls a day and somebody rings me back and they're like, "Hi, Stu, it's John from Google." I'm like, "Hi, John, how are you doing?" And I'm trying to...
What company?
Yeah, Google. Yeah. That the thing is for me why I really like what Mark's done, because the truth is, if somebody does call you back, you are on the back foot.
Yeah. Mark, were you going to share an actual clip of a prospect responding? This is good stuff.
Yeah. So let me just share. So I'm going to share with you what a prospect actually said to me recently when I left that voicemail. So let me just share my screen again. Bloody hell, we're here again.
There's a surprise.
Here it is. Okay, so I assume all those on the webinar are familiar with the #1 agricultural magazine, Farmers Weekly, #ad. This is when he told me why he took my call today. So let me just play this for everyone. This is off the back of me leaving that 20-second voicemail.
What actually made me respond was the voicemail that you left me. So okay. Sounds good for you in your business, but the structure of what you did and the way that you actually left that voicemail, not having ever actually had a conversation with me, I've used that as an example, or I would like to use that as an example to my team. I just need to get it off my phone, and obviously with your permission, of course. The structure of doing that. So I think actually it was less so that I'd necessarily gone and researched your business before that, but actually I think the way that you have personally gone about getting in touch with me and that follow up as a sales manager or as a salesperson, I've quite liked that approach, which is actually ultimately what's made me look into your business and kind of take the call,
I think just to very summarize this is that Mark became memorable. You can become memorable with your voicemails. I don't think people think about them in that way. You can make your prospects feel just a bit special, and you just stand out from the crowd. And we've been doing some of coaching sessions with some of the people who took us up on our offer last week, and that's one of the things I've been saying is just try and be memorable. And it's amazing how being memorable can just make you stand out from the crowd.
We don't really do this, but there's a guy who's a pretty successful SDR and shares a lot of content called Jeremy Levine, and he sends his voicemails. I'm going to send you an email called Dancing Giraffe. Check it out. That's his voicemail, and then his subject line is Dancing Giraffe, and then he puts the body of the text in the email. But anybody's going to think, this guy's a madman. What's he talking about? But then that email comes in, Dancing Giraffe, and the first thing is a GIF of a dancing giraffe, and then he's done the rest of his email. He says, he gets a fantastic response. I just don't know if I can bring myself to send dancing giraffe gifs, but it worked for him. If it works for you guys, then give it a whirl.
Yeah. Right. We're gonna have to move on. We've got one
for me though. Is everyone just practice your voicemails? Work out what you want to say. Don't practice when you're leaving one. Like that's the worst time to do it. Yeah. That's my final bit there.
Yeah. Okay. Right. So let me just share my screen, and then we're going to move on to the last bit of today's webinar. Hope you're all enjoying this. We're going to be on changing the message. Highly topical in relation to the current situation we find ourselves in with COVID-19, and how we should maybe rethink about readjusting our value proposition differently to maybe how we've done it before. I just want to share this little infographic. So For those of you who haven't figured out yet, one of the things that we do here at Refract is we analyze sales conversations. So we've got the benefit of literally analyzing tens of thousands of real life sales conversations every single month. And what that enables us to do is to, at scale, analyze the topics and the words and the phrases that are being used in sales calls. And what we did last week is we ran an analysis on a set of keywords and phrases that are being mentioned on calls across all of our customers this month versus last month. And this is what we found. So we found that the words struggle, challenging, tricky, difficult, hard, you can see how much of an increase they're coming up on calls at the minute this month versus what they were last month. And when it comes to revenue impact, look at things like on hold. How much that's nearly 150% more that phrase is being mentioned on calls this month than it was last month. Postpone is the big one there. Nearly 1,000% more the word postpone is being found on calls this month versus last month. And this just gives you a bit of a picture as to what we're all facing at the minute with the current situation. But the interesting one for me is this one about reduce cost. This phrase that is being spoken on calls significantly more this month than last month. And one of the studies, appreciate this is a very clear screen, is this was run by a company called Profitwell, and they did an analysis on the buyer's interests and what's resonating best with them. Rewind back to March 2019, a year ago, it was much more compelling for buyers to hear about products and services that were surrounded around making money. But look at the shift to this year. It's a complete radical shift to buyers are now thinking about products and services that can help save money. Such a huge difference. So I think we need to think about how can we change our message, our value proposition to be much more aligned to saving costs versus making people money. So Stu, I don't know whether you want to just touch upon, like, first of all, that whole concept and how people can start thinking about shifting what they've said before to being something that's much more around saving money.
Yeah, and I think if we think about it, it makes sense because, previously everybody was going along the business as normal. Everybody's planning for the future, how they're going to grow the teams, how they're going to do X, Y, and Z. That's all being turned on its head. And now everybody's gone into that survival mode. Now companies are worried that they've got to get through this period and get through this period as in the best shape possible. So they're not looking to invest and, make money. They're looking really to survive at the moment. So people change their buying motives to saving money rather than making money. And that's confirmed by what we hear in the stats of the conversations. But it makes perfect sense. But what we've got to do as salespeople is be relevant to that. I think the last couple of weeks, a lot of people have really, had to set up remotely and had problems with that. And now it's starting to settle down and people are realizing, that they can still function as a business, the businesses that are, but now what they're looking to do is cut costs where they can. And it's a subtle change. You can change your product from something where we lead with, ROI, Refract can give you an uplift of X% on revenue, on deals closed, etc. But now we can subtly change that and make it more about how we can save them money. We can help you generate less marketing leads to hit your numbers. And save you money. And that's such a subtle change because, FDs are going to be looking for a reason why they can throw out proposals from salespeople like us because they're just worried on the balance sheet. And like I say, saving money, it takes a priority at the minute.
Mark, I know that you've got something key about thinking about the person who's ultimately going to sign off deals. What's your point to make there?
Yeah, so I think Stu's touched upon it. You've got to write almost two proposals. One's for your user. So in our case, it'd be for the sales leader, but the other is for the finance director, the person who looks after the money. It's going to be so easy for him to just send the sales manager packing for us, just saying, no, this is not the time to be buying more software. What you need to do is prepare your champion. So when he goes into the sit down with the finance director, it's all about making better use of what you're already investing money into. So, as Stu said before, we'd be able to say as sales leaders, we're going to help improve the outcome of your team sales calls. We're going to help you generate more revenue. Now it's like you don't need to spend as much on your marketing leads because your sales reps are going to make better use of those conversations. What that means is you can go speak to the finance director and say, look, we currently spend X on marketing leads. If we buy Refract for Y, I can reduce that marketing spend, but we're going to close more because Refract's going to help me ensure my team have the very best sales conversations and close more from less. That's me doing it very concise, conscious of time.
Yeah. So I want everyone to just have a think about how can you modify and edit your value proposition to be around saving money, and think about the conversation with the financial director your prospect is going to be having, and how can you arm them with the message that this is about saving costs, making better use of resources versus making more money. We're going to just finish on this week's kind of offer, if you like, and then we're going to go on to some questions. There's been a lot of questions that we're going to answer from the audience. So just on the basis of the current situation, there's obviously a lot of salespeople out there that are being furloughed. So for those of you that aren't in the UK that or may not know what that word means, it's basically the UK government is giving the ability for companies they're actually covering the salaries of employees and businesses to kind of help in this tough economic situation. So there's a lot of employees at companies that are essentially not working at the minute. They're just at home and for a small period of time. But one of the things that the government have said is that under the UK government job retention scheme, furloughed employees should be encouraged to undertake training. So we were thinking, what an amazing opportunity for any employer there, anybody that's on this webinar that hires a sales team. Now is the time more than ever to invest in the people that you have furloughed, the people who are at home. What better way to help and support and develop them when they have got so much free time now, whilst they're essentially being paid by the government. So what we want to do is say, if you're a sales manager or leader on this webinar who's furloughed your sales team, get in touch with us for us to share a couple of ideas of how to make the most of this unique opportunity. Just email me, Richard at Refract.ai, with the subject line furlough, and we'll just share a couple of ideas with you of how to make most of this unique opportunity. This is a brilliant time for you as a leader to really help the people on your team to develop them. And you may even have more time on your hands than normal. And so ultimately, it's kind of like, if you're not going to make the most of this time right now, then you may never will. So I just want to, a little offer there. This is a great time. I know a lot of people that have been furloughed have actually joined the webinar as well that we're doing. So that just goes a lot for you guys to, for those of you who are taking accountability of your own development, even when you're not working as such. Right, Matt, do you want to come at us with some questions from the audience?
Yeah, so I think one of the main topics that comes up of interest to people is the voicemails. We've had a couple of people, Jake in particular asks, and this was shared in the chat as well, what does the follow-up email look like for Mark's 2020 voicemail? So what would you typically be sending after that?
Yeah, I think that might be a good one to cover next week, guys. Because there's a few different ways you can do that. We can share some examples and some data and how that comes back. But typically, it's very much like what we've been speaking about. It's about leading with the problems. It's not about overloading. It's not about pitching. You said you're going to share a couple of ideas. Share those ideas in the email. See if that resonates. And then ask if that sounds like something they can talk about. But I've got a couple of emails. I think the subject line's key as well, where you start talking about the ideas in the subject line, but keeping it concise. I think that's probably a good one to talk about next week. I'm conscious people will have to start dropping off. We've got gone to the top of the hour. Matt has pasted our LinkedIn profiles in the chat as well. Obviously, feel free to connect with us, share other ideas, give a shout out to us all for being on the webinar if you found this useful as well. But also just share anything you'd like to see in next week's webinar, what objections you'd like us to cover, what topics, cold calls, etc. And we'll factor that all in.
One of the things we might be doing next week is bringing on a new edition. So we're looking at bringing on a sales trainer, a professional sales trainer, not one of us amateurs, to actually take part in the webinar, and we're keen to do more of that. Bring on real guests to the show, if you like.
Is this webinar big enough for two sales gods, though, Rich?
Does anyone on the webinar want to volunteer to come on live? We can bring you on right now, and you can ask us a question.
We've talked about it. I've just seen Andy saying he'd like to see a live sales call. We have talked about this, but it's very difficult for us to do it with the fact that we're ringing a customer or a prospect and they don't know that they're being broadcast on a live webinar in front of 200 people. So it's a little bit difficult from that point of view to do it. We did kind of bounce a few ideas about letting you listen to one side of the call, but I don't know how exciting that would be when you can't hear the other end. So it's a little bit more difficult, unfortunately.
One of the things we've talked about is creating a sales call kind of face-off, haven't we?
Yeah.
So anyone want to come on live? There's still 107 people in this webinar. Anybody want to come on and just ask us any sort of question? It doesn't have to be based on this week. It could be based on previous weeks. Matt,
just whilst we're waiting, guys. Yeah, just whilst we're waiting. So Cameron asks, and this was echoed by one or two other people, the example that Mark shared was him following up on somebody downloading some marketing material. And that obviously skews the nature of the voicemail. What about if you're calling somebody cold or they haven't engaged with collateral on the website? Would you still use a similar approach? And if not, how would you do it differently?
Yeah, literally just take out the sales coaching handbook.
Yeah, but if you look, Rich, if you go back to the second voicemail, that was 2 years ago. The second voicemail doesn't refer to them downloading anything. It refers to something we found. Now, you might ask the same question. What have you not found anything? You're going to just have to get rid of that then. Just go straight into they've got a couple of ideas. But I think in the modern world, it's very hard not to find something that could be relevant of interest. You just really got to talk about them, even if it's empathizing, right? So I could message a sales leader right now and say, I imagine this is a really difficult time for you, given the cloud of COVID-19. Like, that is just relevant to everybody. There are ways to be relevant and to talk about them. It's just thinking a little bit about it and doing a little bit further looking.
Got a question saying, what happens if you get a hang up? Do you call back, or when do you call back? I'm assuming like if I cold call someone, they hang up on me, do I call back? I probably would, but I'll maybe give it 2 weeks. The reality is, Mohammed, is that they've probably forgotten. They'll have forgotten who I am by that point. If I think they're potentially a good fit, they might have been a bad day, and maybe I need to just rethink the start of my call. But yeah, if someone hangs up on me and I think they're a good fit, then there's nothing that's going to stop me from trying to call them back.
I'll tell you the other thing that salespeople don't do, and I think we're quite good at this with Refract, is let's imagine they hung up to you after about 15 seconds, and maybe you just felt there was a little bit of a clash there. Pass him on to someone else. Like, if he's an ideal customer fit, just go, I might go, Stu, didn't get anywhere here. You give him a call. And like, just having that swapping around will help free that up as well.
Good point. Yeah. Or it might just be a better day. We've all had bad days. They might have been in the middle of something. They might be at home now with 3 screaming kids and, trying to balance work and looking after the family. People have bad days. Like, don't take it personally. Yeah. Move on.
Got Adam Elliott says the best LinkedIn message he received was from a certain John Sutherland. All he spoke about was Cambridge United.
That's all he ever talks about, Adam. Every day Cambridge United. He loves them.
We've got a question. Could you guys build an email follow-up to talk about selling by email more broadly? I definitely think there's more we can do on email. So good idea, Dale. Thanks for that. Right. I think that probably brings us to the end. Hopefully that was valuable for everyone. As I said, we've got, the learnings from the first webinar, especially the call up in 35 seconds, been working fantastic for me. I've been able to score appointments every day. That's what we like to hear. Keep those good news stories coming through. But anyway, thanks for everyone. We'll get the recording out to everybody as soon as possible. Stay safe. Happy Easter. Try and do something interesting this weekend if you can. And we'll see you next week. Alec, how do I join every week? Just follow us, connect with us on LinkedIn. We'll be posting about next webinars, and you will not miss out.
Post the links to LinkedIn back in, Matt, so it's back at the top for everyone. There we are. So all our LinkedIn links are there, guys. Easy to connect with us, and us connect with all of you.